Hi, this is Rachel from Ray K, or not Ray K Books anymore, Rachel Reads, and today I'm here with four authors, Kelly Hunter, Heidi Rice, Lucy King, and Amy Andrews, and they have all written a series that are kind of intertwined called The Fairy Tales of New York. So the first book is Kelly Hunter's Pursued by the Rogue. So Kelly, can you please tell the audience a synopsis of that book?
Well, this one was we have a geeky science girl, I guess. She's very successful in her field. She's very young, and years ago, she met up with a musician, and who was a brother of one of her best school friends. And it's just the story of how they get together again after a long, long time. So and the other girls, she went to boarding school upstate New York with the three other girls from the three other books. So all four of the stories start with a boarding school prologue that we had a lot of fun with. Hmm.
Thank you. And the second book is Heidi Rice's. Heidi wrote Tempting of the Night. So what is that about?
Well, my book is set in Brooklyn on a Brooklyn house barge. All the books are set kind of around a Irish American pub in Brooklyn, and my hero is a legal aid attorney in New York, in Brooklyn, and my heroine, one of the girls from boarding school, is a supermodel who's kind of she's been a bad girl in her youth, and she's now trying to change her life basically. And they end up together on his house barge. She's running away from the press after an incident on Manhattan Beach at midnight, after getting picked up by the police, and he kind of helps her out. And he's the oldest brother of this Irish American family who run the pub, and Kelly's hero, Finn, is one of his brothers. So that's another kind of link.
Awesome. All right. So we're kind of seeing the link between the first and the second already. The next one is Lucy King's Taming the Beast. Can you give us a synopsis and also how that's linked to the past two books?
Yes, so Taming the Beast is based on the fairy tale Beauty and the Beast, and my hero, the Beast, Seb Madison, is the brother of Heidi's heroine from book two, and he is, as a result of his parents dying in a car accident, he is very scarred, and it's up to the heroine, Mercedes Hernandez, who's an Argentinian vintner, to bring him back to life, really. And she was also obviously one of the girls who was at the boarding school with the others.
Very nice. And the last one is Amy Andrews, Seduced by the Baron. Same thing with you, Amy.
Right, so my heroine is Faith. She is one of the four girls that are at the boarding school 10 years prior, and her hero, it's her family bar that the whole book is around in Brooklyn, and her hero is Raph, who's not really related to anyone except he knows Mercy. So Faith's two brothers, Finn and Ty, are Heidi and Kelly's heroes in their book, and Faith is kind of the one that's been left behind. All the other friends have settled down. She gave up all her career aspirations to go to art school. When her father had a heart attack, she had to stay behind and manage the pub, and she's kind of been stuck in a rut ever since. She's sort of, too focused on pub and family to really sort of think about her own personal life. And then she sort of reunites with all her friends, and they're all getting together, and she starts to think that love and all those chances pass by. And then into the bar walks a long, tall Australian beer baron, and they go on from there. They fall in love and have lots of sex and kissing.
Well, don't spoil it.
I think anybody
I didn't know they'd have
book
sex in a romance. All right, so My first question is why New York? Because all of you guys are from overseas. You're from Australia, one of you lives in Spain and the UK. So why New York? Why America?
Um, I think partly because we wanted to use the title Fairy Tales of New York.
Yes.
But also because we've all been to New York, it's such a cosmopolitan city that you can have people from all over the world, but we also wanted to kind of base it there because it's such an exciting place. But we also like the idea, I think, of setting it in Brooklyn, so it's not like such an obvious kind of touristy part of the city. But anyone else can jump in and say what they.
I don't know. I think I was willing to set it anywhere. I saw sort of Heidi's Londoner, and I was thinking we could do London, we could do we could do Ireland, we could do anywhere. So we were looking for a cosmopolitan city, and this set of books basically we ended up choosing New York.
So how did you guys get together? How did you meet each other and form this group? Because even beforehand, all of you seem like really close friends. So where did you guys meet?
We've known each other for quite a few years, all of us. We all wrote for the Harlequin Kiss line. So, and Heidi and I have written a couple of stories together for continuities for that line, and we've also written for other lines together. So, probably our association, I've known Kelly for about 10 years. Ever since I've been writing, ever since I've been published. So, I think I first met Lucy in New York about for the last New York conference. So we kind of just know each other because we've all written for the same line, and we've been hanging out on loops together for quite a few years.
Very nice. So how did you guys get to like intertwine it? So there's the brother, there's the best friend, all of that. So how did you guys kind of figure that out?
It was about 1,000 emails. We set
17,000.
Yeah, 17,000.
And quite a lot on the loop as well.
Yeah. Oh God. We set it up basically a Yahoo group, and then we just sent emails backwards and forwards to each other whenever we had a query after we'd set up the original idea. And it was kind of like at the beginning stage, it was just really exciting because the thing is they're all based on fairy tales, and so we each had to pick a fairy tale, and I said, I think I'll do Rapunzel, and Kelly was doing Ugly Duckling, and then I was kind of saying, my heroine can have an older brother, and maybe they live in a big mansion in New York, and what about if he had, she has an older brother who could be Lucy's beast, and so like that. But it was,
I had it all done for me.
No,
it was brilliant.
Huge amounts of emails backwards and forwards.
So, since these are based on fairy tales, what is the hardest thing and the easiest thing about writing this series?
The hardest thing, I think, was getting the all those details correct at the end, but the easiest thing was also just brainstorming it. I love doing that.
That was the most fun bit as well. Well, not the most fun, but one of the really fun parts was the brainstorming. All the kind of ideas that you reject and the ones that work. But it was brilliant. The brainstorming was fantastic.
And then I would say, go Kelly.
No, the hardest part was nailing those details. I remember there was so many conversations about what people were drinking. Everybody got their favorite bar drinks. And was it beer, was it Guinness, was it margarita, and it kept changing. Or I don't think it did kept changing. I kept changing mine. And everybody's hair. So we actually did character sheets. So everybody had a sort of a descriptive character sheets of the other characters. But as you write, sort of sometimes things tweak a little bit. So I remember, Amy, your heroine Faith had, was her hair long and curly or corkscrew curly, or, we had really detailed discussions, emails.
We all had, well, Kelly didn't, but the rest of us had Pinterest boards, so that
Mhm.
kind of helped with that sort of detail as well, because it is hard to try and keep, 4 heroines, 4 heroes, all their motivations, all their little individual bits and pieces, true and right through 4 books, and 4 different people are writing them all the time. So we also each read each other's works also. So when if there are any sort of discrepancies from our own characters' points of view, we could sort of point them out, and so that hopefully at the end product it was all consistent and no one's going to email us and say, "Ha! In book 2, so and so had blue eyes and now she's got green eyes in book 4," or whatever. Those kind of things always make that process fraught.
Yeah, it's also quite hard. I remember when I first did one of these kind of books, which was actually with Amy again in another series of 4 books, and I was really nervous about writing other people's characters in my book because I didn't want to do, and there was a lot of, we had to do adjustments as we wrote the books, and then we revised them, and then things changed about the different conflicts, and so we had to kind of adjust the characters to make sure, like if I had written something, particularly say for me and Lucy, because we had 2 siblings who were basically estranged, like my heroine and her brother haven't really had a proper conversation since their parents died, which was like, what was it, 5 years before or something?
13 years ago.
And so it was kind of like that. All that kind of, getting that all correct was really hard.
So now we're going to play a game. It's called Would You Rather. And for those of you who don't know what Would You Rather is, I would ask everybody something like, would you rather eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life? And they'd have to say either apples or oranges, except this is literature edition. So the first one is, would you rather read only trilogies or standalones?
Ooh.
I like trilogies. I'm a big fan. I like going back and catching up with people.
Yeah, I'd say trilogies, definitely.
Yeah, I think I would too. I agree. I like finding out what's happened to couple 1 in book 3.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with the trilogy as well. We all sound boringly similar, but I think that's the case.
Would you rather shop at Barnes & Noble? Oh, wait, you don't have Barnes & Noble.
Not
Okay.
No
Wait
way.
a minute. I have to change this. Would you rather, I don't know, a major bookstore in your area, kind of like Barnes & Noble here, versus Amazon? Which one would you rather buy from?
So what you're saying is, would we rather go and buy a actual paper book or an ebook? Is that kind of what we were trying to?
Yeah, paper book at a big bookstore, like not a wholesale, like a Best Buy and stuff like that, a huge corporation.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
sure.
saying.
In Australia, it'd probably be like something like Angus and Robertson. I think I would. I don't know. I'm a bit torn. I kind of do both. I do like the whole paper book thing, but I can't deny that I also do own lots and lots of ebooks as well. So if you put a gun to my head, maybe I might choose paper just because I like to sniff it. But it's a line call.
Because I live in Spain, we don't really have any, well, the part of Spain I live in, we don't really have any English language bookshops. So I would have to go with Amazon, I'm afraid, for at the moment.
I think, do you know what? I'm a bit of an ebook tart. I'd have to go for Amazon because I like that instant gratification. I can't do going down to the, walking all the way down to a bookshop. No. I'd straight away.
I'm the same. I think Australia too. Sometimes we have lag in paper books. There can be a 6-month lag between when a book comes out in the States and when we see it in Australia. So I don't like the wait. So I'll try and grab it online.
Have you said that? I do love browsing in bookshops.
I
love it.
Although, to be honest, the big book chain in the UK now is Waterstones, and they don't sell romance in section, so they've lost my business.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. Okay. And well, that doesn't make sense because isn't romance the most popular genre in like
I
books?
know. They're
That's
a
what I
bit,
hear.
yeah, they're a bit. They kind of put the romance in with the general fiction, which is
Yeah, they
just
do that
really.
here as well. Mm.
Oh, I thought you meant they don't sell it at all. You're saying that
No,
there's
they
just
do
not
sell it,
like
but
a.
they don't. They're not. They don't concentrate on it at all. Yeah, and
Oh,
it's quite
okay.
hard. To be honest, it's not. It's unless it's a really big author, it's not easy to find.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is, would you rather all books become movies or TV shows? So instead of the Hunger Games becoming a movie, it could only be a TV show, and vice versa.
Mm. Well, do you know what? I would have said a movie, and because I used to be, well, I still do some film reviewing, but having seen Outlander, the new TV show of Diana Gabaldon's books, which I love, I would have to say, like, if it was going to be a good TV series, like properly done, I would rather it were a TV series because they have to cut so much out when they make a movie.
Yeah, it's like a trilogy, isn't it? As opposed to a standalone. You get weeks and weeks and weeks of a hit. Like I think like Poldark, it's been big over here at the moment. So we get a weekly dose of what's his name, Aidan Quinn or no, what's his name?
Aidan
Yeah,
Taylor, no, what is it?
Aidan,
Taylor?
yeah. So I
Yeah,
have to go. I have to go to serial as well for the television as well, definitely.
yeah, I'm not sure. If it's a short series, then I'd go for a series. But if it's a long one, I'd have to go for a movie because I kind of with series, I sort of watch the first two or three and get really into them, and then something happens and I just stop. So it'd have to be a movie, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm for television. I for the same reasons as Heidi and Al. Yeah, give me more.
All right. The next one is, would you rather read 5 books per month? Or wait, no, that's not right. Read 5 books per week or 5 pages per month.
Oh,
Oh, 5 books per week.
yes.
Yeah.
5 books per day if I could.
Mum, what are you doing the rest of the time?
All right. And the next one is, would you rather only read your top 20 favorite books over and over or always read new ones that you haven't read before?
New ones.
New ones.
I'm not much of a rereader, so I
Oh,
couldn't read for the rest of my life just only 20 books. That would and that would mean that nobody would be buying anybody else's new books, including
yeah,
mine.
very good point.
So yeah, I think I'd go with the new ones.
Desperately ruin my bottom line. I'd have to say new.
I know, I was just saying. Just thinking, my bank account would probably rather I just read 20 of the same books
If
again.
it wasn't a monetary thing, I think I'd still say new. Even though I love rereading stuff.
Yeah.
It's still. I always really good books. You get something else out of them when you read them again. But yeah, I couldn't not have new. That would be, yeah.
Counterproductive.
All right. What about Lucy? Did you say your piece about it?
Kelly, I think it was Kelly who hasn't.
Oh, Kelly.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
We know you're sitting there
Yeah.
quietly, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I think I'd read new. I want new. So just so I can discover the next favorite book.
All right. And would you rather be a librarian or a bookseller?
Oh, librarian.
I'd rather be a book. Yeah.
Mm. Then you could choose from like a whole library of books.
But then if you're a bookseller, you could just choose the books you wanted.
I think I'd like to be a bookseller. Well, except it's probably quite hard to do. Please don't. After we all said we would go to Amazon.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be a librarian because you could just, if you don't like a book, you can just return it, and you could just have access to all those books that you can just
And then, but
read when you're
going
not
every
being a
day.
librarian.
Yeah.
Going every
Yeah,
new books all the time as well. And you
yeah.
don't have
I'd
to
like to
worry
be a
about profit.
I'd like to be a bookseller, I think. I'd get sick of being really quiet, you know. I'd like to crank the music up
I think of them what my sons used to get up to in the library when they were kids. Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to ride herd on all that, I must say.
See, I think because I've got two very small children, I would love the silence. I could happily spend all day in the library.
All right, the next one is, would you rather only read your favorite genre or every genre except your favorite?
Oh, God.
Really, really, I don't read much else than romance. So, it's a bit. That's my main thing. I do occasionally dip into other genres, but I'd miss it.
What about subgenres like historical, horror, thriller, fantasy,
Oh,
sci-fi?
like subgenres of romance, you mean?
Subgenres.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't know, because I guess my main genre is contemporary. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Ooh, that's a tough one. I
That's
guess
really
I could
hard. I
go.
love reading. Sorry, Heidi, carry on.
Yeah, no, I didn't have anything else to say, really.
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to choose between the two. I couldn't. I really love romance, but I also really like reading all sorts of other stuff: thrillers, murder mysteries, whatever's in the bestseller lists. So I couldn't make that choice. Well, not really.
What about you, Amy?
I yeah, no, I'd rather read in my if I didn't have a choice, I'd rather read my favorite genre than definitely, because I couldn't do without my contemporary sort of romance, to sacrifice for maybe liking literary fiction or I mean I do read in other genres, but largely I don't have a lot of time to read, so I go for the reads that I know that are going to generally satisfy me. So I'd have to, like Heidi, I think I'd have to stick with contemporary romance.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd go wide, I think. I would. And you could sort of always write your own contemporary romance, but I'd be hard pressed to. No, that sounds horrible. I'd be hard pressed to write a thriller or a murder or a crime novel, so let somebody else do that job. And then get your contemporary fix by writing it. So, have a little bit of everything.
And then the last would you rather question is, would you rather only read physical books or ebooks?
Oh, I think ebooks for me.
I can't decide.
Yeah. I like the swap over. I like to work and write on the computer and in and so if I'm switching over from editing or from writing, I'll pick up a paper book, and for me that's I guess a physical cue that I don't have to critique it as I read it. It lets me, a physical book, maybe I sink a little further into a story world. I don't know. Whereas online, you're sort of going, I could correct that typo if I could get in there,
You're so professional. The minute I walk out of the room.
It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to throw an e-reader against the wall too.
Yeah, that is true.
All right, so that concludes our Would You Rather. Thank you so much for playing. So my next question is, if you were stranded on a desert island, which character from your series, it could be any 4 books, do you want by your side?
Other than our own heroes, do you mean?
It can be any of the books.
hero, thank you very much. Mind you, he's using a Tony. I don't know how useful he'd be on a desert island.
You need to take
Well,
Seb.
my Seb could build.
I don't think he's
He
quite
could
high.
build he could build you a trellis, and I'm sure he'd be very good at other
Yeah,
things as well.
I think I might want a hero actually, because he used to be in the French Foreign Legion. He could probably
True.
build a raft,
Yeah.
using a shoe.
We actually do have 2 spare brothers left over in the series, Casey and Ronan. So maybe we could take them to the desert island with us. They're musicians, though. They probably wouldn't be very good at,
Two of them, Amy.
What?
You don't have 2 guys.
I was thinking of sharing them between all of us. I wasn't going to keep them all to myself. But I think that'd be pretty useless because they're going to be able to play a mean fiddle, but that's not going to keep us fed and watered, is it?
No, but you could burn it and keep warm.
Oh, I think that might be sacrilegious, Lucy.
If you could be best friends with one of your characters from the series, who would it be?
Oh, maybe Zell. Zell's got all the beautiful model clothes and all the stuff.
That's true.
But then Faith does run a pub.
Faith does run the pub.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
I think they all have their, I think they all have their. I think because all the girls are friends anyway, it's kind of hard to, to sort of say that. And the characters are pretty tight, so there's not a whole lot of extra ones, in that world. And the girls have kind of had 10 years of history between them, so I guess they're all pretty tight anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
So how do you get through the dreaded writer's block?
You know what? Oh God, I should touch wood here because now I'm going to be struck down with
I'm sitting at the wood table.
But I don't know. I have never had writer's block. It's my job. I've got contracts that I have to fulfill, and I just sit myself down in my chair every day. And even if I don't feel like writing, even if I don't know what I'm going to write, I just write one word, and then I know if I write one word, that another word's going to follow, and then I know another word's going to follow that, and they might be crappy words, but I think you just got to kind of get through it. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there is such a thing as writer's block, really. It's what it is when you don't want to write because you know what you're writing. So it's not like something that, it's not really writer's block. It's just you sort of, well, for me, it's me mucking about and not actually sitting down and doing work. So
Yeah, that's me too. Yeah.
I have to just discipline myself. And once I've sat down, and even if it's rubbish and I know it's not working, if I keep working at it, I know I will eventually. I mean, having written 17 books now, and my husband now always says to me when I'm miserable and saying, "Oh, it's rubbish, and I don't know what I'm writing, it's all crap," and he always says to me, "Oh, you do this with every book." Then I want to kill him, of course. So killing your husband is a good way to get through writer's block. Yeah, haven't killed him
Yet. But you told us your plans, so if he dies, we know that you killed him.
I find it a rapidly looming deadline kind of. I mean, I've never had that complete block, but I do find I'm a bit like Heidi. I can faff around for quite a long time when a deadline seems to be quite a long way in the future. But as it gets closer and closer, then my panic levels increase, and I find that makes the words come a bit faster.
Panic, yeah, extreme panic. That's a really good gift for writer's block.
What about you, Kelly? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, you can I tend to get on the phone to writer friends, and sort of have this long phone call-y brainstormy thing. Sort of say your writer friends are the only ones who you can sort of say, my hero's not alphaing up. I've just sent him to play bingo with his grandmother, and what's wrong? And,
I want to read that book, Kelly.
and Your very close writer friends, I have no hesitation sort of saying you're nuts, you know. No, what I mean is if you talk something out or talk something over, often it can get you past a difficult plot point that you're stuck on, because they'll start throwing ideas at you or spaghetti at your wall, and whether you take them or whether you reject them, it tends to make you start thinking, approaching sort of scenes in different ways. So that's great.
Mm.
I
think,
also
yes.
I don't mean to disparage. I think there are people who do get true forms of writer's block. I remember listening to Jennifer Cruzy a few years back, and she said that she went through menopause and she had 2 years where she just couldn't write. So I don't mean to disparage. I think there are actual genuine cases of writer's block, but for me, I think like maybe everybody else, it's just procrastination and faffing around more than anything.
That is, yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't want to just encourage it, because obviously every writer is different and they all have different process, and you can't really answer for anyone else but yourself. But yeah, and I definitely do I brainstorm with other writers, and that's what made this series so good in a way, was that I felt that a lot of the times when I was struggling with the characters, I would just ping an email and say, oh, do you think this could happen? And then everyone would be like, oh no, you can't do that because we're doing this later on. So
yeah, I was going to say that. That was, yeah.
So where does your inspiration from this series come from?
For the series?
For the whole series? Well, Amy originally came up with the idea, saying she'd really like to do kind of modern riffs on classic fairy tales. So that, and
everybody hated the idea. I'm just going to say that.
I hated the idea originally because I said, oh, that sounds really rubbish. and then suddenly, of course, and then I started thinking about Rapunzel and thinking, oh, I could have a supermodel with long blonde hair, and she gets it cut because she wants to get away. She's got a contract as a shampoo model, you know, and she's got this long hair that she hates now, and her life seems so unimportant and what she's doing. And suddenly it all started to, and he was the knight because he was working for the poor and downtrodden as a legal aid. And suddenly it all started to come together, and then I said, oh, that's quite a good idea, actually. So...
yeah, I think the fairy tales were probably maybe our inspirations, individual inspirations for our books. I don't know, maybe the others might say differently, but that certainly helped with the individual book. Once we had picked our fairy tales, mine was Cinderella, that then kind of gave a loose sort of, form for the book to take. So, and again, once we're all, pinging ideas of each other, we were able to take elements from each classic fairy tale and be inspired, and for our books and for each other's books as well. We'd say, oh, you could, what if we did this in your book? And so having 4 people working on sort of one big overarching idea definitely had lots of inspirational, aspects.
Yeah, I also, what's interesting for me is that I tend to write bad boys in my other books, and I suddenly had this, this was the first time I'd ever really tried to write a guy who was kind of like, a traditional good guy in a way. He was a bit uptight, actually, which wasn't my kind of thing at all, but that was a real challenge for me, and it was great to, to sort of think outside the box for the first time and suddenly think, oh, do you know what, I could actually do a guy who isn't just a rebel and just make very, very, but he's got all these conflicts underneath because he doesn't really he feels like he's failed his mother and so, yeah.
So how do you guys relax after a stressful, writing day?
Lucy, where's that wine? Show us the wine.
This is what I do, usually with my Kindle. No, I tend to read. I read a lot, as much as I can. So that's how I relax. I love my Kindle. I take it everywhere with me. Any 5 minutes I get, I open it up and read.
Very nice. So how long on average does it take you to write a book?
Too long for me.
As long as I have, really.
Yeah, that's why it's too long for me. Depends on the length, obviously, but and how well it goes, really. I mean, sometimes they just literally almost write themselves. Although it's happened to me once, I think, in 17 books. And sometimes that, you know, I can write really fast, but then I kind of hit a wall and I kind of realise I've gone wrong somewhere and it double back. So yeah, for me, it's about, for a 50,000 word book, it usually takes me at least 3 or 4 months.
Me too.
Whereas Amy wrote her book in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
No, I did not write my book in 2 weeks. That's an exaggeration. That's a vast exaggeration. But I'm currently writing like a 15K novella. Don't listen to this, Kelly. And I'm 6K in, and I should be finished that by Friday. So I can usually write a 50K book in about 4 or 5 weeks, I guess, depending on what else is happening in my life. But yeah. But that doesn't mean it's good.
I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
Kelly, what about you?
I don't know. I do a lot of faffing about. I think so. I think the biggest day I've ever had is probably about a 6,000 word day, and I sort of did that for about a week and finished half a book in a week. But it had probably taken me maybe 2 months to write the first half.
And that's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too? Writing 6,000 words a day every day is just.
It's exhausting. You come out the end of that and you're stuffed. You know, you're really mentally drained, and depending on the book and the characters. Yeah, so it's not one to recommend, but maybe sort of somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 words a day is a nice aim.
Yeah.
I try to do 3K a day.
I tend to find that if I say have 4 months to write a book, I'll spend about 3 months writing the first quarter or third, and then because it takes me ages, and then once I get that right, then the rest of it I can write quite quickly. So which is a very frustrating way of working, but that's what I do.
That's kind of what I do. It must be a British thing. That's very annoying. That's why
something in the water.
So are you guys going to do NaNoWriMo in November? Have you done NaNoWriMo before?
We did it for the first time last year.
I tried.
And I actually started writing this book on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I'd never tried to do it before, and I thought it would be quite stressful, and it was. But like the first 15, I think it was, no, the first 18,000 words in the month after about 3 weeks, and then I gave up. Took a week off because I was so exhausted. And I thought it was all rubbish, but then when I went to look back on it, actually it was quite good, a lot of it.
I do NaNoWriMo all the time, so I'm not doing any kind of formal sort of stuff. That's my life.
It doesn't really fit with the way I can't write a full draft, a first draft, so it doesn't quite work for me. NaNoWriMo.
I might do it again this year, actually. I think I will, just to kind of get myself writing faster. I keep trying to find ways to write faster, basically.
But don't you think, Heidi, that at some stage you just work out what your process is, and you just got to surrender to that?
I think I've got my process. It's rubbish. I'm stuck with it.
But it's your process, isn't it? That's the thing, I think.
Yeah, that's my rubbish process, yeah.
You can't change it. I'd love to change mine, but...
So, how do you, do you work out an outline, or are you, I think it's called the pantster, where you write in the seat of your pants, or an outliner?
I'm a pantser. Definitely. I tried to write outlines and they just go on for 15 pages and then I realised and I'm just kind of sitting there pretending that this is what the actual book is going to be, and it isn't. So, I gave up doing that.
I tried to be a pantster, and ended up going so wildly off track that I now am a plotter. A bit more of a plotter anyway, not a complete plotter. A bit more of a one.
What about you, Kelly?
I pantsed pretty much the whole time, so tend to get 3/4 of the way through a book and then have a wild panic that I can't bring it home because I've got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think that panic and maybe the pants stuff does send your book in interesting directions. That if you're sitting there with one part of your brain trying to be very methodical about what's happening next and what's happening next and what's happening next, you may not give your characters enough breathing room to just sort of turn a little. So I think there's benefits to both. Sometimes I wish I could plot and stick to plot, and sometimes I don't want to. So yeah.
I'm a bit of both. I do kind of I can't sit down and just completely pants. I feel like I need to have some kind of things down. So like this is the book that I'm working on at the moment. So I've got 2 kind of foolscap sheets of paper. That's my plotting. So essentially it's just sort of chapter points and a few things I know are going to happen. And then probably I essentially might ignore it when I sit down and write it. But I feel like it's a little safety net so that if I do go off track, I can sort of say, what was I supposed to be doing? And I can look at it and go, oh, that's right. I said I was going to do X, Y, Z, and that might not work, but it might also be just what I need to get back on track. So I'm a bit of a down the middle kind of a person, a bit of each.
All right, so I want all of you to give us an insight into your main character. What do they do that's so special? And we'll start with Kelly since that's book number 1.
Okay. So my main hero, you want the girl or the boy?
Well, both of them, since they're technically both the main characters.
Oh, look, my hero is a musician, and I remember we had a lot of emails. Initially, my hero was a Broadway pit musician, and then he was in a band, and then he was a violinist. He just went up these tiers, and I'm sure that I drove the girls nuts because one day he was this, and one day he was the next, and then he'd sort of anteed up again. So it was a little bit of running joke as to what he was going to become. But he's a world-class violinist, and I love music, and I've had a lot to do with it over the years, and it was really nice to write a hero who was very driven, very focused, and try and put some of those qualities that you have to have in order to be, the best at whatever you do. To bring them through into other areas of his life. So when he decided he wanted this girl when he met her again, so he went after her with all the determination and drive and persistence that that he had learned, I guess, as a musician, and he needed that for her, so that worked well. And she was Ugly Duckling. I took her inspiration was Ugly Duckling. She'd had some childhood events that made her think she was very unworthy. And so she was very smart. She was driven as well in research, but underneath she was just very insecure. So she needed this gorgeous, confident guy to come and make her value herself, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, now it's Heidi, your turn.
Okay, well, my heroine is, she's someone who's been always, incredibly beautiful and had kind of things come, in some ways it seems like they've come easily to her, but in reality she's had a very difficult childhood because her parents died when she was only 13 in a car accident, both of them, and her brother was injured, and he then had to look after her, and he was only 18, and he kind of just emotionally cut off from her, and so she became a complete wild child, and she was, you know, kind of hopping around Europe doing all this kind of modeling stuff, but she had serious addiction issues, and she came through that in her 20s, and she had to basically pull herself back up and deal with all that. And as a result, she's got a kind of strength, a real strength about her, but at the same time, she's got a huge amount of vulnerability, because she doesn't really feel that anything that she's done with her life has been particularly worthwhile. And then she meets this guy who he knew her at, well, he didn't know her at the boarding school, but because his sister was nearly kicked out of this boarding school, he thought it was her fault. And he kind of despises her a bit, because he thinks that she's really kind of vacuous and, you know, full of herself. And he's very dedicated to his career, but he's also very dedicated to people who are, you know, need his help. You know, he's a legal aid attorney, so he kind of helps people with housing issues. And, you know, he sees the kind of the opposite side of life to what she has always had, because she's, you know, she was an ambassador's daughter, and she's come up very rich and all the rest of it, and very privileged. And so he completely misjudges her, because he thinks that she's this very kind of shallow, immature person. And of course, he has no knowledge that she's gone through all this really difficult in her life. But at the same time, he is someone who has, you know, he's a really protective character. He likes to kind of nurture people, and it's something he's kind of denied himself, because his mother died when the family were quite young, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers here, but it's you know, it's basically the progression of that. They have this, and of course they are really attracted to each other, and they have this very, very hot, sexy weekend, and they can't really resist each other. But he, you know, they basically get to know each other, and he falls hopelessly in love with her, but she's pushing him away all the time, and he can't understand why, and forces him to dig deeper and look at her as, you know, more of a full person. And I can't really say any more than that, because I've kind of given the whole story away now already.
All right, well, I'll cut you off now before you dig yourself a hole.
Yeah.
So Lucy, you're next. What makes your characters so special?
Well, my heroine is called Mercedes Hernandez, and Mercy for short. And I like her because she's incredibly loyal to her friends, and her friends are really important to her, and they mean a lot. And in the 10 years that they've been apart, because they left school and then when they were sort of 16, and then they kind of meet up 10 years later, and she's done a lot to try and keep her friends together. And she's especially Zelda from Heidi's book, and so she really likes to help people, and is quite a fixer. So she comes from Argentina, from a vineyard in Argentina, and she's trying to escape her fairly smothering parents. So she's in New York doing an MBA, and she is, as I said, she's loyal to her friends, but she's also harbouring a little secret that her friends don't know about, that she actually slept with the hero 5 years beforehand. She's had a crush on him forever, and she can't quite understand why, because he's, as Heidi mentioned, he's a bit of a beast at times. And so Seb Madison, is, well, I love him. He's quite alpha. He's ex-French Foreign Legion. He's very aloof. He's very tortured and damaged, and he has lots of scars, both internally and externally. And yeah, to sort of see her help him through, kind of get over his survivor guilt and things from the accident that killed his parents. I like how that works. So, yeah.
Very nice. Amy, you're next.
What's so special about my characters? I think that Faith is special because she's sort of the glue in her family. Not, you know, she's sort of taking over after her, you know, her mum died, as Heidi said, sort of early in the piece, and then instead of going off to school like she wanted to do, when her father had several heart attacks in a row and couldn't cope anymore with the pub, she sort of took into that, sort of stood into stepped into that space. So, and she is the one that, you know, keeps all the brothers going, and that's sort of, you know, very much sort of the Cinderella role. She's not downtrodden, but she's, you know, she's sort of the one that keeps everybody all together and cohesive. And I think what makes Raph special is that he recognizes that, and he recognizes in her, he can see, even though Faith won't say it or articulate it or complain about it, he can see that she's, you know, not really happy deep down underneath, that she feels that she's sort of being left on the shelf and that life is passing her by. And I mean, you know, there's lots of special things about Raph. He's pretty hot, and he's an ex-pro surfer, and, you know, he owns a beer kingdom, so there are lots of things that he's got going for him. But I think, for me, what's special about him is that he sees in her, that he sees her deep down unhappiness and her dissatisfaction with her current life, and like wants to help her change the stars, I guess, a little bit. So I think he's special because he can see that he's not just, you know, a guy who's just after, you know, a bit of a roll in the hay, although clearly they roll in the hay as well. Well, not in the hay because they're in New York, they roll in a very posh hotel, but yeah, I like that he can see that, you know, in Faith.
Very nice. And the last question that I'm going to ask you guys is, do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
Just keep writing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds a bit crass to say that, but you've got to write. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do, like read books about writing, go to seminars, you know, obviously read lots of books, but I think really you've got to sit down and actually write, and that's very hard to do when you don't have a contract and you don't have a deadline, but everything you write is never wasted, I don't think.
Yeah, I think reading is, I know that sounds, you know, not not very helpful, but I don't know how many people that I've met who you know, are writing a book or wanting to write a book, and they don't read, or they're not reading in the genre that they want to write about. It seems like nobody would say, oh, I'm going to be a beer baron or a, you know, a vintner or whatever, and not have done some research into, you know, into what they're doing, or sort of to know that, you know, that field. So if you want to become a romance writer or a crime writer or whatever you want to become, then I think it's really important to have read widely in that genre, and to have read all the modern stuff too. Don't say, well, yes, well, I read, you know, whoever 20 years ago, because, you know, times change, books change, publishing landscape changes. So read often, read widely, and read in the genre that you want to write in. And there, it'll be amazing how much it informs your own writing.
Yeah. And I guess for me, a tip for me is to maybe not, sorry, Lucy, maybe not get so caught up in research. I think you know, a lot of people you talk to, and they say, I'm going to write, I'll start just as soon as I've finished researching, you know, how to be a vintner in Argentina. Well, how much do you need to know? You know, you do need to know. You do need to do some research sometimes, but research shouldn't come at the expense of actually sitting down and trying to put a story together.
Mm.
Yeah, I think, I know, again, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but write from the heart. And if you love what you're writing, then that will come through in what you write. And for me, I have to know my characters really, really well before I can kind of put them in situations that I have to know how they respond and things. So to get to know your characters, and that just comes from writing a lot, I think.
And join a writers organisation.
And now,
also. Sorry, I just thought I'd add that in as well.
That's all right. That's all right. Keep coming with the advice. So now I'm going to talk about a giveaway. All 4 of these amazing authors are going to give away their book in the series. These are ebooks only, so this is international. So that is, again, Kelly Hunter, Pursued by the Rogue, Heidi Rice, Tempting the Night, Lucy King, Taming the Beast, and Amy Andrews, Seduced by the Baron. All 4 of those could be yours. So all you have to do is comment. This huge chat room thing is going to be a YouTube video, and when it becomes a YouTube video, I need you to comment on that video with a way to contact you. It can be email, it can be Twitter, Facebook, anything, it doesn't matter. And that's it. I will pick a winner next Monday, which is the 17th of August. And that's it. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me in this chat. I enjoyed our time together. And I will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.